What's up guys, it's Dr. Katie Sum back with another video, and today I'm going to give you 5 tips to help make sure that you pass your NAVLE. I know just how much stress you're under right now, okay? That's exactly how I felt last year around this time. And whether your NAVLE is tomorrow or in a week or in a month, I hope that you can find time to watch this whole video because these are 5 things that I wish I knew before I wrote my NAVLE. So without further ado, let's get into tip number 1. Study how you want. Whatever works for you, okay? That is super important. For example, VetPrep and Zuku give you these calendars about how to study and how to get through all the material, but it's not really feasible or realistic because that assumes that you're going to be on the same placement for 2 months or 3 months. While in reality, you're on an easy rotation, then a hard rotation, then an easy placement, and then 2 hard placements. So for example, on my difficult placements, I was at school for 16 hours running around. I did not have time to study for a week sometimes. Whereas on easier rotations, when I was done at 4 p.m., I had that whole evening to study. So I would get twice as much studying done, for example, compared to the week where I was on the hard rotation. So no matter how hard you try to follow those guidelines, you might find yourself in a difficult situation where you fall behind. But don't worry, because there will be time to catch up when you're on placements with less commitment. Yes, absolutely try to study every single night or every single day in some way, shape, or form using a mobile app or just scanning through some power pages. It's really important to try to keep up with it, but really you're gonna tackle huge chunks when you have the most amount of time. And I know it takes forever to get to that 80% that you're gunning for in VetPrep or Zuku in order to make sure that you do get a free subscription if you fail the NAVLE, which I'll get into later. It goes really slowly at the start, but the farther you go, the more you knock down those percentages. Some of my classmates were done 100% of the prep course by November 1st. Did I eventually get to 100%? No. But did I at least get to 80? Also, no. I think I made it to 65 or 66% of vet prep, and that was just fine, okay? There is so much information in these courses that it's super hard to get to that 80 or to 100%. But it is a good reassuring safety net that if you fail, you don't have to pay for it again. Speaking of failing, I want you to forget about that as much as you can, okay? If you fail the NAVLE, it does not mean that you're not competent, you're not intelligent, that you won't be a great veterinarian in the future. All it means is that on that day, things did not go according to plan, okay? You are competent, you are intelligent, and you will be a great veterinarian. And you have been proving that for the past 3.5 years of this program. So don't worry, because if you don't pass, you'll just write it a few months later and pass then. So don't worry about it. So in summary, study however you want in whatever method works for you. All right, moving on to tip number 2. Familiarize yourself with the software. I cannot stress how important this is, okay? If you don't know what I'm talking about, the link is in the description. Go to that website and figure out how to use all the tools, because whatever is on that website is exactly what you will see in the same format with the same interface on the day of your NAVLE, okay? You are gonna be mind-blown by 6 one-hour blocks of 360 questions, and you need to know how to use the functions in order to survive. So when you're done watching this video, go to that website, figure out how to flag, how to highlight, and how to use all the tools, because it will really help you if you go through the tutorial and know all the functions before you start your exam. Figure out how to use the software now so that it's not stressful later. I found the flag and the highlight tool the 2 most important things, because 1, I could go back to questions that I wasn't sure of, and for highlighting, I used the Spock method, which I went over in my previous video, in order to figure out and take out the most important aspects of every single question. If you haven't seen that video, it's at the end of this one and in the description. So go watch that if you haven't seen it yet. When it came to flagging questions, on the first block, I literally flagged every single question, okay? My exam looked like the emoji section on my phone. It was crazy, but it was very helpful because I could figure out where to go back in a hurry. So do yourself a favor, go to that website and figure out how to use all the functions before you write your NAVLE. Trust me, you will thank yourself on the day of your exam if you do this beforehand. Let's move on to tip number 3. Don't get discouraged, okay? This is gonna be one of the hardest days of your life, and you will get through it. But if you give up on yourself at the beginning or halfway through, you probably will have to write it again. You need to believe in yourself, and you have to keep up a positive attitude. This is probably the most important tip because it's what's gonna get you through 6 hours of hell. I can't actually disclose any questions or information even if I remembered them from the Navily, but I remember the first question on my exam was something about a bunch of species living together and all sharing a common disease. And I was blown away, okay? It was something about a rabbit and a mouse and a guinea pig all commingling, and then it asked me what the answer was, and I had no idea. Honestly, it sounded like the beginning of one of my jokes. A mouse, a rabbit, and a guinea pig walk into a bar. And the rabbi says, I had no clue what the answer was, okay? And the second I saw that question, I was like, well, I've already failed. But I pulled myself together, I believed in myself, and was hopeful that the next 359 questions were nothing like that. But if I had given up after that, I wouldn't have made it through the other 5 blocks, let alone the first one. So it's super important to not get discouraged and to just move on when you don't know the answer. That being said, let's get into tip number 4. Take care of yourself, okay? If you're going to drink alcohol the night before your Navily, make sure you cut yourself off after 1 or 2, okay? Now is not the time to throw back shots with your roommate. Now is the time for a hot bath for you to relax and get a good night's sleep. Because you want to be in tip-top shape for the next morning where you'll probably have to get to your exam center super early. Whatever you do, do not stay up until 3 a.m. trying to cram the last bit of information into your brain, okay? If there is anything, any subject, any power page that you want to learn right before your Navily, do it now, okay? Trust me, I had set aside a few pages that I was planning on studying the night before my Navily, but I got a little bit behind and didn't get to them at all. So finish this video and then hit those things right away, because if you don't, you might not make it to them. And something along the same lines as taking care of yourself is pack a good lunch. I'm talking the most epic lunch you could possibly imagine, full of all your favorite foods, okay? And I know the healthy people out there are like, but Katie, what about brain food? Yes, brain food is very important leading up to your Navily. But trust me, on the day of your exam, the last thing you want to see when you open your lunchbox is fish oil and turmeric, okay? On this day, you're going to be feeling a little sorry for yourself, and it's super, super long. So you want to make sure that you have anything at all available to you to boost your morale. For example, I packed some sandwiches, and I also had my favorite snacks like goldfish crackers and fuzzy peaches, and they actually did make me feel better. Pack a good lunch, take care of yourself, get a lot of rest, do anything you can that relaxes you because you need to be in excellent shape for the following day. If you're superstitious, set an alarm at an exact time or do whatever you need to do to make yourself feel better.
I'm not superstitious, but I'm a little stitious.
So please, take it from me, take care of yourself, go to bed early, and pack a good lunch. Here is the last tip I have for you guys, okay? Tip number 5. Pace yourself. On your exam, you need to make sure that you are in line with the timer, okay? I know it's scary watching it tick down, but you can't just ignore it, okay? Don't focus on it. Just know in the back of your mind approximately how much time you have left by looking at it every so often so that you can answer all of the questions in that block successfully. That hit me really hard in block number 1, okay? I had practice timed exams on Vet Prep, but it wasn't really the same because a lot of the questions were reused from the practice questions, so I already knew the answers. So it made me feel like I had more time than I actually did. So on the day of my Navily, I did run out of time and I was super panicked, okay? I had flagged like all 60 questions and I didn't even answer question number 60, and to this day, it still gets to me. So don't focus on the timer, just glance at it to make sure that you're on the right track for the number of questions you have remaining. I think a lot of people make the mistake of thinking that they have 1 minute for every single question, plus 5 extra minutes because you get 65 minutes to answer 60 questions. But that's not necessarily true. Because remember that question that was super easy and you clicked it and answered it in 15 seconds? That just bought you 45 seconds to use on a different question. Remember that other question where you had to completely guess because you did not know the answer and you knew that even if you kept thinking about it, you still would not know the answer? That just bought you 30 seconds to use on a different question. So yes, it averages out to be around a minute and a bit per question, but in reality, you'll spend less time on some questions and more time on others, and it all works out in the end. I know some of you will walk out still feeling like you needed more time, and that's fine because that's exactly how I felt too, and everything worked out in the end. So approach your exam like you have a total amount of time to answer a total number of questions. And this is going to be very important in blocks 5 and 6, okay? After block 3, I needed a beer. And I still had to do 4, 5, and 6, and I thought that there was no way I was going to possibly get through this. But it's super important to remember to pace yourself in those later blocks because you're going to be slowing down and you're going to have a total of approximately 4 remaining brain cells to form synapses to get you to the right answer. One last thing is that you will walk out of that exam thinking that you failed, truly believing that you failed. And I'm not talking about what you used to do in undergrad where you're like, oh, I failed, oh, I did so badly. You will genuinely believe that you did not pass, and that's fine because that's what I thought, that's what all my friends thought, that's what all my class thought, and that's totally normal, okay? Let me tell you something. There was an OVC student who got perfect on her NAVLE, okay? 800 out of 800, a perfect score. That girl walked out of her exam thinking that she did not do very well. Did you hear that? There's a mortal human being that got perfect on the NAVLE, and even she didn't think that she did very well. So that's really saying something about the exam, okay? It's a normal feeling. You will go through a couple months of anticipation, but you will get your result, and statistically, you will have passed. Again, if you didn't, it's completely fine, and nobody will think less of you, and you will have an entire army of people ready to support you, ready to help you if you have to write it again. Anyway, guys, I hope this video helped. If you have any questions, post them in the comment section below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. And let me know what you want the next video to be about. Good luck with studying. You got this.